So today we are gearing up for day number 10, if you're counting, of testimony in the Murdaugh family murders case. So this is a double homicide case. The defendant is a once very prominent, feared attorney in Colleton County, South Carolina, where this case is being tried. The state picked up a pivotal victory during Monday's proceedings as they're trying to make a link to the motivation for the killings. The Honorable Clifton Newman is the judge presiding over this one. He ruled that the jury can hear the bad character evidence about Alex Murdaugh's financial crimes. Now, these are allegations, of course, the state's words, not ours, but the state says he was a thief, and they're putting it all in front of the jury. Now, they're saying, and yesterday it's like everything came together when they put a witness on the stand and showed how much pressure was going on and that all of Alex Murdaugh's financial records were possibly going to be exposed. And they say that is the motivation that led to him killing his son and his wife. First, we want to take you out to Colleton County, South Carolina, where Court TV legal correspondent Shanley Painter has more on what is coming up today.
Hey, good morning, Julie. Coming up today, we expect more experts from SLED to talk about the results of testing on certain items found at the crime scene, including gunshot residue. There was a blue raincoat yesterday that jurors were able to see up close, and we know from opening statements, prosecutors say that raincoat was covered in gunshot residue.
Do you mind standing up in front of the jury and show them how large it is? Is it a poncho style rain jacket?
Yes, sir. It appears that way.
All right, thank you.
The big question Monday inside the courtroom was, what exactly was it that Alex Murdaugh brought to his mother's house just days after Maggie and Paul's murders? His mother's caretaker, Shelly Smith, testified that she was there when Murdaugh arrived around 6:30 in the morning, carrying something blue into the house. The prosecution highlighted that the item was likely a blue raincoat found in the home, but on cross-examination, the defense focused in on how Smith believed it to be a tarp.
So when you saw Alex Murdaugh this morning at 6:30, what did he do after he knocked on the door? Did you let him in?
Yes.
Did he have anything, or was he holding anything?
He had a blue something in his hand.
Say that one more time.
A blue something in his hand, something blue.
You never told anybody at SLED in June in these interviews, one or two, anything about Alex coming in with a blue tarp, is that right?
Right.
Shelly Smith also told the jury about how Murdaugh tried to get her to say that he was at his mom's house for a longer period of time than he actually was.
What was he telling you about that he was at the house the night of the murder?
They had been there 30 to 40 minutes.
Was he there 30 or 40 minutes that night?
Not to my recall.
Why are you crying, Ms. Smith?
They're a good family, and I love working there. And I'm sorry all this happened.
Jurors also heard from the first financial witness in this trial after Judge Newman granted the state's request to present evidence related to Murdaugh's financial crimes as part of their theory of motive. Before the jury arrived Monday, the attorney in the Mallory Beach civil suit testified before the judge and described how Paul Murdaugh's 2019 boat crash impacted Alex Murdaugh's financial situation.
What I told Judge Hall was, they say he's broke. My people have lived in Hampton their entire lives. They do not believe he's broke. If he's broke, we need to open the books and let them see it so that they can then form an informed opinion about what they should do.
In fact, we do expect to hear more witnesses regarding the alleged financial crimes of Alex Murdaugh coming up today. Also outstanding in this case is whether or not the judge will allow in testimony regarding the roadside shooting. We expect Judge Newman to take up witnesses outside the jury's presence later this week. For now, Julie, I'll send it back to you.
All right, our thanks to Chanley Painter for that report this morning. Now joining me in the studio to take a deeper dive into the testimony of Shelley Smith, our Julia Janae, Court TV legal correspondent. Julia, yesterday you were on the desk hosting as Shelley Smith was testifying. It was gripping, as you know, everyone hanging on to every word she said. Would you kind of walk us through step by step? You know, Alex Murdaugh is using his mother's house as the alibi, we know. Would you kind of give us the map of where he went according to the facts as we know them presently in the case?
Absolutely, and who expected this witness to be so emotional? An alibi witness who was an employee of the Murdaugh family. So here's a look at Miss Libby's house. We'll hear her name often. This is the mother of Alex Murdaugh, and he's someone, he went there often. The witness on the stand today said that it wasn't terribly unusual for him to visit. That time of night may have been somewhat unusual. Her timeline was about 8:30 or 9:30 at night. But we know from GPS that he was actually traveling around 9:06. But let's take a look at the map of where this is, because the mother lives in Varnville, and that's about 12 miles away from Hampton. So there at the top is the house, also the crime scene where his wife and son were killed. And if he was making that drive, a straight shot would be about 20 minutes from his house to his parents' house. And then he would have to go back at the end of the night to discover his son and wife's body and call police. So in terms of the alibi, there's a bit of a discrepancy. The 20 minutes that Shelley Smith on the stand said is how long he was there with his mother, that he may have taken, not really a nap, but he lay down on the bed, but also that he told her after, at the funeral, that I was there 30 or 40 minutes. It's just a 10-minute difference, Julie, when you really think about it, but the state is drawing it out as significant.
Oh, absolutely, Julie. As you know, when we're talking about a window for 2 murders, every minute counts that this could have been done in. And for him to, the state's putting this out there, that he leaned on Shelley Smith at the funeral home pretty hard, leaned on her, I was there 30 to 40 minutes, I was there 30 to 40 minutes. And some are saying, you know, tried to bribe her too. Didn't he say something, what, about money for a wedding?
Yeah, now he brought up at the funeral as well. Again, this is for his father, Randolph's. A lot of tragedy happening in this family all at once. So they were at the funeral of his father, which would have been a couple days after the murders, and she testified yesterday that he mentioned this to her casually at that funeral.
And what did he say about your marriage, your upcoming potential marriage?
I heard you was getting married. I said yes. He said, if I could, just let me know, because the wedding's going to be expensive. I said, well, thank you.
The wedding's going to be expensive?
He said, wedding's going to be expensive. I said, well, thank you.
Did he offer to help?
Yes, he offered. That's the type of person, a good person.
Julie, not only did he offer to help with the wedding, apparently he also mentioned that, hey, you're in school, you're going to be needing a job. I know people, let me know. I'll talk to them if you need a certain kind of position. I would have liked to see more follow-up in terms of, had he ever offered that before? Was he the type of person who made these kind of comments to you in the 3 years you worked for the family? But I didn't hear that kind of question.
Yes, my friend. I know you're not alone in that. I know our courties want that. There was a lot more exploration to do in the questioning of her because she was so good. She was such a sweetheart. In many ways, she was a perfect witness because she has credibility, you know, doesn't have a horse in the race. In fact, like, you see the struggle. It's almost like a character in a movie that you see conflicted, and the heartache, just as she's saying that, you could see she, good family, good people, nice people.
She seemed like she wanted to be there.
No, right? So that's good for the state that, hey, they're bringing her in and she's, you know, swearing to tell the truth and she's giving up this stuff that is helpful to them. But you're right, they should have uncovered more about what he had ever said to her previously and how unusual this was to say those things. Because to your point, if he offers to help her all the time, then, you know. But yeah, this did not look good. Speaking of looks, let's talk about what he was wearing, please, Julia, what she said.
It's important because she is also an alibi witness, but what he was wearing has been at issue in this case. And here's how she described how he looked when he arrived. Again, she said around 8:30 or 9:30 at his mother's house.
Do you remember what he was wearing?
Shorts and a t-shirt.
Do you remember what kind of shoes he had on?
those cloth shoes, like Sperry's, that type of material, like Sperry's, that type of material, cloth shoes.
Cloth shoes?
Yeah, like cloth, I mean, yes.
And you said something called Sperry's?
Something like Sperry's, that, that kind of, but it was cloth. Okay. That kind of, yeah.
Julie, I got to point out another question I would have wanted there.
Yeah.
What color was the shirt?
Yes.
She said that he was wearing a T-shirt, and we know from the body camera footage or the dash cam footage of him being interviewed by police afterward, the white shirt that doesn't have anything visible on it.
Right.
But we don't know what color shirt he was wearing when he was at his mother's, not from that testimony.
Right.
Anyway, but one key thing that was brought out by the defense on cross-examination is that she didn't see any blood on him. He didn't leave any blood when he lay down on his mother's bed.
Sure.
No signs of anything. And you'd think a caretaker would notice that. She's checking on the mother throughout the night.
Right.
She would have noticed if there was any kind of blood on the floor, or the shoes, or anything of that nature.
Sure. And certainly this is a smart guy. This is a trial attorney. He's done criminal defense work. He's been a prosecutor. You know, if he did these crimes the state of South Carolina says he did, we know he's not going to go over there soaked in blood and then identify himself as a possible suspect to sweet Shelley Smith, right? So, but you're right. They should have said, was it the white shirt, that he had on, that he has on in the car when he's being questioned? That would make sense if they're saying he did this, he changed his clothing. Julia, before we let you go, another bit of controversy that I suspect we're going to hear a lot more about today, the blue raincoat and the blue tarp coming in. Something I'm curious about, was there any suggestion by Shelley Smith that the raincoat could have wrapped up the tarp, or the tarp could have been hidden underneath the raincoat when he walked in? Because it's my understanding she says she saw the raincoat, but then we know when he was upstairs in his mother's room, the tarp was spread out. And who brings a tarp into the house, by the way, too? I mean, they stay in the garage, they stay in the shed. They don't go in the bedroom.
That seemed to be difficult. She said she doesn't go upstairs much, only twice in the 3 years that she's worked there, so that just seemed to be something don't ask, don't tell in terms of where she goes. She said of the blue tarp that she definitely remembers seeing it. She was a little spotty on if she saw the raincoat afterward or before. Didn't seem to be very clear on the location, and what was most problematic is that she didn't tell police about it early on when they were questioning her about the murders. It wasn't until September. This happened in June of 2021. In September, during the course of her having a car accident and interacting with police, this information came out. So, of course, a delay is not something that totally prohibits it from coming in or prohibits it from having credibility in front of the jury, but it is one of those issues. And she was asked, did it wrap up anything else? She denied that it was wrapping up anything like a gun. She said, I didn't see that, but he was carrying it.
Right. Oh, we're going to hear more on this today, I know. Julia, thank you so much for all of that. We'll be talking more later on as Court TV Live progresses.